Hello everyone and welcome to the first episode of California Transit Nerd. To start, I've got a series of history and alternative history going over Amtrak California system and a bit of the regional rail system from 1990 to 2030, and I'll be doing that in 10-year increments. So to start, we have 1990 to 2000, when the state really starts getting interested in InterCity Rail. So in 1989, California has two state-supported rail services. The San Diegan, which will later become the Surfliner, is running 8 round trips between San Diego to LA, 3 of which are funded by Amtrak, 5 of which are funded by the state. It moves 1.2 million people, which is second in ridership for the time behind the NAC. Then the other state-supported service is the San Joaquin, which is running 3 round trips between Bakersfield and Oakland, and all 3 of those are state-supported. The stock being used is a mix of Horizons, older stock that Amtrak inherited, and AM fleets being pulled by F40s. So down here, this is a brand new service. It's about to start up, the Capital Corridor. There is it in a glorious F40 pulling a pair of, looks like brand new AM Fleet 1s. Up here, this is a San Diegan pulling 5 AM fleets. So, in the late 1980s, California starts passing laws which enable propositions, which are how California's version of direct democracy, where voters get asked, do you want to do this or do you want to do that? They're commonly used for bonds. So in this case, there's $2 billion in bonds plus $1 billion in taxes being proposed in 1990, one of which is Prop 116. So that passes, and that buys track in LA. Some new coaches and locomotives for Amtrak California, our own dedicated fleet. It starts Metrolink and a lot of the capital project that needs, plus it has some local transit. So then, following that up, there's the Passenger Rail and Clean Air Bond Act of 1992, which is $1 billion in follow-up money, which is basically completely aimed at local transit. There's if I remember reading right, there's a sprinkle of intercity rail money, but less than 20%. So 1994 also has another measure, the Transportation Rail Project Bond measure of 1994. That's $1 billion, but that is heavily focused on intercity and regional rail. So to start with, I figured we'll talk about the most important rail line in California, the Coastline. This was Southern Pacific's premier line for many years. At its peak in the late 40s, early 50s, SP was running 6 trains a day on this. They had 3 daylights, 2 sleepers, one of which was one of which was considered like a chair or coach sleeper, and one of which was a all Pullman sleeper. Plus they had some local services. So for example, at the Del Monte, which ran from Monterey up into San Francisco, and there was more. So this is SP's premier passenger line. They've ran a bit of freight over the line, but it was mostly local freight. So Amtrak took over all SP's passenger operations at the same time in the early 1970s. So by the 1990s, this line is barely used. There's a couple of through freight today. There's some local freight. Amtrak has 1 round trip, the Coast Starlight, running this route. And so SP wants to sell it. It's not useful for them, and they're really short on cash. SP, for a lot of its later years, was constantly hunting down cash. So they had just sold a bunch of lines in LA to Metrolink, or what is that, the Southern California Rail Authority? Yes, whose service is branded under Metrolink. So in 1992, they go to LA County into the state and say, hey, we'll sell you the rest of the coastline, because they had already bought part of the coastline between LA and Moore Park. So in 1992, this is where we start to get into alternative history. The state decides, okay, we don't want to do that, but we need funding. So that 1992 bond gets doubled to $2 billion. Same with the follow-up 1994. and the state gets real serious about buying this line. So there's a couple of plans for this line, and these bonds come with some service promises. The brand new Capital Corridor, which is running San Jose to Oakland and then on to Sacramento, will be running hourly, 16 round trips. Same with the San Diego, which is also being extended north to it's being extended north to Ventura and then to Santa Barbara and Goleta. Plus, there is going to be the brand new Coast Daylight running from Santa Barbara to Oakland, and that'll have 6 round trips. The San Joaquin and the Central Valley will also be getting 6 round trips, plus the other branch of it, which has already been proposed, is a route from Bakersfield to Sacramento. So that will also, though, be getting 6 round trips. So that 1992 measure barely scrapes by. The 1990 measure passed with 53%. This one passes one with 51.5%. Barely edging it out. So California buys the Coastline for $250 million. So here's kind of the layout of what gets changed. So I'm going to go back then to this map. So, because this makes a ton of sense. So there's some upgrades planned at this point. ITCS, which Amtrak has begun working on the Michigan line, is considered to allow faster speeds because we have the cab requirement in the US for above 80 miles now requires cab signaling or some sort of supplemental signaling. California then also decides to double their order for rail cars from Morton Knutson, and we decide to work with Amtrak. So in 1993, this is our new rolling stock order. So we order 144 California cars, up from 66. We get 27 cafe, 27 business, 30 cab coach baggage, and 60 coaches. So these are to make 5 car sets. There's a couple extra cabs in case of crashes, because that's always been a big fear of us, is having a cab car get hit. We also end up ordering 12 superliners from Amtrak's order from Bardier, which is 3 diners and 9 sleepers. Those get combined with some coach cars and a cab coach baggage. Plus, we order 36 F59 PHIs. And so we have 27 5-car sets, which is a locomotive, a business class car, a cafe car, 2 coaches, and a cab coach baggage. And then for our sleepers, we have 4 sleeping cars, a diner, 2 coaches, and a cab coach baggage. 3 to 4 sleepers, mattering on availability and how many are needed. So this means all of our train sets now can operate with push-pull. We have more than enough locomotives to deal with this. So the 1994 bond unfortunately fails. It fails barely at 49%. So this was the expanded plan, added a lot of light rail to cities like Sacramento, San Diego, Los Angeles, and San Jose, plus some expansions to San Francisco's network. It had bypasses on the Surf Line, so that San Clemente, which is already having issues, and Del Mar doesn't end up falling into the ocean. And Caltrain electrification was considered as well. So because of that, they look at the money they have from 1992 and 1990, and they do some shuffling. So San Diego to Fullerton is still planned to be double-tracked outside of the Del Mar Bluffs, and some track in San Clemente where you're right up against the ocean. In 1995, the cars being delivered from Morton Knutson have issues. There's major suspension issues, door reliability, floor panel sagging, and Morton Knutson is going out of business. So the state really pushes Morton Knutson hard and works on improving these cars, right? We have almost 150 cars coming. We cannot have them be problematic. So that continues to get worked on. However, at the same time, Amtrak and California decide to get new cars for the Surfliner. The plan is 13 6-car sets, plus some more F59 PHIs, which will in total give us 50 F59 PHIs, 40 daytime sets, and 2 sleepers. So Alstom ends up being the manufacturer of this second batch of cars, and they are a lot more reliable, and they come with a lot less issues. So in 2000, we have the brand new cars, and so in 2001, we reached our service goals. That comes as starting in around 1998, 1999, the track work is being finished up from Oakland all the way down to San Diego. There's rebuilding of worn out track. Some of this track on the coastline dates back from the pre-1950s. It's all jointed rail, so that's replaced with ribbon rail. We're on concrete ties for much of the way. The goal was 110 miles an hour all the way from Oakland into San Diego. There's a couple spots where that's not going to happen. Curve realignment happens. We're not getting tilting trains, which was one proposal for the time. We're sticking with our bilevels, and we're fixing curves. So we set super elevation fairly high at 6 inches, higher than a freight railroad would normally do, but the state owns the line, and there's still a bit of local freight, but there's not the same level of heavy freight that typically be there. So ITCS also gets deployed at the same time. California decides that it is going to be the signaling system and PTC system. So the entire coastline gets CTC and ITCS. So this is a modern line. Sidings get extended. So this map is color coded. The red represents double track, and the blue is single track with passing. So from Goleta south into LA gets fully double tracked, and from south of San Jose all the way into Oakland gets fully double tracked as well. And there is a maintenance yard at this point. Was the primary one was in Los Angeles, and so that actually gets moved, and a big new yard is built, or big new shops, and the main shop for Southern California is built actually in San Diego, and a fairly large light operations maintenance facility is built in Goleta for the Surfliner and the Coast Daylights. So let's look through the service. We have the hourly service between San Jose and Sacramento on the Capital Corridor. We have the San Joaquin, which is running every other hour from Bakersfield to Sacramento and from Bakersfield to Oakland. We have the Surfliner running hourly between Santa Barbara and San Diego. It extends actually to Goleta, but Santa Barbara is the well-known town there. And the Coast Daylight runs Oakland to Santa Barbara every other hour as well. Plus, we have one overnight of the sleeper. So, where does this leave us? Well, we've got a lot more frequent service. We have the largest deployment of PTC in decades, right? The Surfline is about 100 miles long, and the Coastline is 450. Plus, we do the Peninsula and ITCS as well, right? So we've put down 700, 800 miles of, or 800 route miles, a lot of which is double tracked, of cab signaling to support 110 miles an hour. We've got quite a few reliable sets now that we finally have stuff. So in my next video, I'm going to go over 2000 to 2010, both a little bit of history, and then we'll get pretty deep in alt history. If you guys like this video, like it, please share it, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.